A very good evening and a warm welcome to Biz RoundUp on another weekend. I'm Savindri Jayawardena. Let's look at the top stories for the day. Country's GDP growth rate for the first quarter of 2020 stumbles. National policy for the small and medium industries is a long overdue necessity, subject experts stress. Inflation increases to 4.2% in July 2020. News in detail. Sri Lanka's GDP growth rate for the first quarter of 2020 has been estimated as 1.6% of negative growth rate when compared to the 3.7% of positive growth recorded in the first quarter of 2019. The Department of Census and Statistics made this revelation, releasing its preliminary national accounts estimates.
The Department of Census and Statistics, releasing a preliminary national accounts estimates, said that the gross domestic product for Sri Lanka for the first quarter of 2020 at constant price has declined down to 2,292,589 million rupees from 2,330,053 million rupees recorded in the first quarter of 2019. However, the gross domestic production for Sri Lanka for the first quarter of 2020 at current price has increased marginally up to 3,845,900 million rupees from 3,773,551 million rupees recorded in the first quarter of 2019, registering 1.9% of change in the current price GDP estimate. The four major components of the economy, agriculture, industry, services and taxes less subsidies on products, have contributed their share to the GDP at current prices by 7.3%, 28.4%, 58.3% and 6% respectively in the first quarter of this year. The report also says that the COVID-19 pandemic at global level in the first quarter of 2020 deeply impacted the industrial sector, recording the lowest growth rate ever reported for the first quarter series since 2010. According to the official data, construction sector alone has contracted by 16%. The report further adds that the downfall of export demand of European markets, especially including the United States, has had a considerable impact on the government-related industries.
Sri Lanka Chamber of Small and Medium Industries point out that national policy for the small and medium industries is a long overdue necessity, and almost all the elected government officials have neglected that fact. This was released by advisor to the Chamber Chaminda Kumarasiri addressing a recent media briefing.
We as a nation has three major issues in my view to fix this country. One is the debt issue. Second is we have an enormous amount of imports and we have a dependency syndrome. So if you look at the history, it's only in 1977 when the economy was open, you find an excess in the export sector over and above imports. Since then, up until now, we have imports above exports. If we talk about the current context, our imports are double the exports, which has come down drastically during the last couple of months because of the initiatives by the government. So the other issue that we have is increasing export. So curtailing debt, reducing imports, increasing exports. All these three key initiatives, three key strategies can only be driven by one strategy, that is developing local industries. Unfortunately, this segment has been neglected in a big way in the past, despite the fact that this segment is contributing over 70% to the economy.
Speaking further, advisor of Sri Lanka Chamber of Small and Medium Industries, Chaminda Kumarasiri, also urged the government to solidify the short-term measures introduced for the country's SME sector amid COVID-19 crisis in order to retain the momentum of the sector's development.
Then, one other good thing that the government came up during the last couple of months is introducing this credit guarantee scheme for those who cannot afford a collateral when they source funds. What we feel is, while appreciating the efforts, this has to be one of the major actions going forward in a big scale, because we have a large number of entrepreneurs across the country who are unable to source funding because of this barrier. If the government can have a large-scale mechanism to cater, that will be a winning mechanism. And one final thought, we have 20 million plus population in this country. And as most of us believe, fostering entrepreneurship is the solution for many of these problems. But unfortunately, if I look at the numbers, we have little less than 3% entrepreneurs in this country. But there are big number who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs. So we need the support of all the like-minded parties to bring that into a reality.
The central bank states that the headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index has increased marginally in previous month compared to June 2020. Thus, the headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year CCPI increased to 4.2% in July from 3.9% in June this year.
The slight increase in the inflation was mainly driven by monthly increase of prices of items in non-food category along with the statistical effect of the low base prevailed in July 2019. Food inflation increased to 10.9% in July 2020 from 10% in June 2020. Further, non-food inflation also increased marginally to 1.5% in July 2020 from 1.4% in June 2020. The change in the CCPI measured on an annual average basis also increased marginally to 4.8% in July 2020 from 4.7% in June 2020. Monthly change of CCPI recorded at 0.1% was mainly due to net effect of price changes observed in the items of the non-food category. Within the non-food category, prices of items in health subcategory increased during the month. Meanwhile, prices of items in the food category also recorded marginal increases in July 2020. The core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation in the economy, increased marginally to 3.2% in July 2020 from 3.1% in June 2020. However, annual average core inflation declined further to its 16-month low of 4% in July 2020 from 4.2% in June 2020.
Stay tuned for more news right after this break. Welcome back after the break. Bank of Ceylon Chairman Kanchana Ratwath states that Bank of Ceylon intends to allocate a total of 50 billion rupee loan stimulus to affected businesses in order to fast-track the post-COVID-19 economic revival in Sri Lanka. Thus, BOC Chief Ratwath made these observations addressing the BOC's 81st anniversary celebrations.
Despite all the grey clouds, let me very proudly state that year on year, we as a bank that accounts for 40% of the foreign remittances have maintained the level up to the end of July. Except for the month of June, where there was a small deviation, every other month, despite the COVID situation, foreign remittances have flowed to the bank as usual. So do we have reason to despair? Not to despair, but to address situations as we go forward. I would like to call upon the employees, the staff, and the senior management of BOC that despite the challenges that we are facing, we need to address the concern of the government of Sri Lanka. The main focus of the government is to ensure that there is adequate circulation of money. අපේ වැඩබලන සාමාන්‍යාධිකාරිතුමා කිව්වා වගේ බිලියන 15.5ක් මහ බැංකුවේ අනුමැතිය සඳහා යවලා තියෙනවා. ඊට අමතරව තව බිලියන 12ක් 13ක් අපිට ඉල්ලුම්පත් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. And very silently let me say our target is a 50 billion with the cooperation of everybody in the bank.
Customs provisional statistics highlight that Sri Lanka's export earnings have increased to $1,060 million in July this year from $1,020 million in June this year, which is a positive signal that Sri Lanka is in the roadway of recovery. Demonstrating the country's rebound amidst the COVID-19 impact, merchandise exports in July have crossed the $1 billion mark, an achievement last enjoyed in January this year. This increase in exports is slightly higher than the $998.5 million achieved in July last year. Soon after the COVID-19 pandemic erupted, exports in April fell to $277.4 million. Export Development Board Chairman Prabhash Subasinghe said in July, apparel, tea, coconut rubber, fruits and vegetables and other agricultural crop exports had performed extremely well. Subasinghe was optimistic about the food and agriculture exports and expressed confidence that these sectors would help Sri Lanka achieve the $10.5 billion target set for the year. He said the US and the EU would continue to dominate the export markets for Sri Lanka for the remaining months of the year in spite of the high number of COVID-19 cases in the US. Now we have a subject expert at First Capital Holdings bringing you a detailed review on the stock performances for the past week along with the stock forecast for the coming week.
During the short week, market witnessed mixed activity due to profit taking. Thereafter, with the general election edging closer, investors were seen rallying behind capital goods and banking counters. Foreign participation for the week was at a minimum of 15%, with a net foreign outflow of over Rs 740 million. However, retail activity absorbed the brunt of the impact on the optimism of political stability which was achieved this week. We expect the landslide victory witnessed at general election to boost investor confidence and for heavy retail activity to rally around construction and plantation counters. Moreover, the release of delayed quarterly earnings due to COVID-19 may adversely affect selected counters. Foreigners may continue to be on the sell side, although strong buying interest from retails is likely to absorb the impact.
That's all news for today. Take care and good night.